Hello and welcome. I am giving this a shot. I have been debating doing this for a very long time now, and you know what? I thought, let's just do it. It's just something I've been wanting to do, and you know what? We're doing it. So it's April 27th, 2024. I've probably been thinking about this on and off since like 2020 or so, but Murphy, my dog won't stop licking his crotch. Thank you, Murphy. Thank you for that contribution. And I am wanting to do my first podcast. I got the idea a long time ago from a artist that I follow online named Nerd, and I've been listening to her podcast probably since I don't know 2018 or something like that, 2017, maybe even 2016. I'm not sure. It's been a long time. Um, and have a super nice parasocial relationship with her. She has no idea who I am. But I know so much about her life. It feels probably creepy. And I'm hoping to you guys, it's what I'm hoping for out of this. I want it to be a Patreon exclusive because I've been struggling probably for, I don't know, a decade now with stuff I want to, do and give to my patrons so they, feel like it's worth the time and support that they're offering. Um, and I think I'm going to start this like, every 2 weeks. I have a thing I've noticed about myself, which is I am very bad at weekly things for the most part. If it's just once a week, it's okay. But more than once a week, I start falling apart, and um, it's just difficult. And sometimes I don't even look forward to the thing that I'm doing once a week, even if I really love it. Like I have a horse lesson I do every single week, and even though I am so happy once I'm there, getting like it's already like Saturday, though it's mostly Friday night still in my mind. Um, and I'm already like dreading having to get up early to go see my horse, and I love my horse. He's great, but yeah. Some little insight to me. Um, and yeah, so bi-weekly is something I can keep up for a very long time. I have a friend, an art friend, who I've been doing bi-weekly art meets with since 2020. And I don't know why, like, I haven't been doing this that whole time. Like, I've wanted to, I just never made it happen. And part of the reason is bombshell, da da da, I have ADHD. Also, I have barking dogs who just decide randomly to get set off on just about anything. And it doesn't even matter. Like I've had dogs in the past where if I show them I'm the one knocking, then they kind of like look at me and go, "Oh, don't I feel silly for barking at that?" These two, I have a corgi and I have a pit bull, and both of them, I can knock right in front of them and show them I'm doing it, and they just don't care. So yeah, on that note of having ADHD and being immediately distracted, I've pretty much suspected I've had ADHD since, I don't know, 2020 when we all got cooped up in our various living spaces and started watching TikTok a lot. And, yeah, I, started watching some videos and started really identifying with like the inattentive type of ADHD, which I didn't even know was a thing. I thought it was just for little hyperactive boys, and I was like, I don't relate to that, so it's not me. Um, but then I found out like, oh, memory loss and oh, low energy and lots of memory and uh, inattentive things that I've experienced my whole entire life. Um, yeah, that's me. So it's got an official diagnosis now, which would be great if I could just pop on some medication and see if that helps me. But I have to wait until August. It's April, and I'm not super happy about that. But it is our healthcare system, and I am on the free government plan where I'm at right now, and I just gotta just do what I can, I guess. I've been trying to get seen and stuff for months, years now, even where I'm at. Um, Maybe I should back up. I've had quite a few changes in this past couple of years. Um, so probably, I mean, back in 2020, we'll just start there, I guess. I was living by myself, alone in an RV at that point for 3 years by that point, and I was working at a company called Spoonflower, and I was also trying to do this. I was trying to do my podcast. I was trying to, or not my podcast, my Patreon, I mean. Um, I was trying to do my comic and I was trying to do art as a career, but yeah, I've been trying to do that for 20 years now and I have not been successful at that. Not to the point of being able to survive off my own art, to any sustainable degree. I kind of secretly hate, like a pet peeve of mine is when people are like, "Oh, I don't, success is just what you make of it, blah, blah." No, no, there's a number amount. There's a number attached to success, and it might be higher than you want it to be, or it's constantly seems higher than you want it to be. But no, I have a very firm number in my mind as to what success looks like to me, and if my art could just consistently make that for myself, I would be like super happy. Um, but until that day comes, I'm pretty much always having a part-time job. And so 2020, living by myself, looking around for different kinds of things and, you know, communities and groups. I'm isolated, I'm alone, I can't be with my family. Really sad thing happened early on in the pandemic, which is my parents' cat, who at the time was only 2 years old, uh, had to get put down because she just had this like weird sickness that they'd never found out what it was, but basically like her lungs like filled up with fluid and she just couldn't breathe one day, and they offered to like, "Oh, let's fill up the lungs with even more fluid and then take the fluid out and see what's happening." And my parents and even me was like, "No, absolutely not. That sounds absolutely abysmal." Yeah, anyway, long sad story about Sophie. Um, but yeah, so that happened. I was looking for communities. I was trying to find people in like my tribe and group of people that like I would get along with. And I was digging around in a bunch of different discords, and I ended up finding a podcast about Animorphs, which is kind of one of my biggies. I like Animorphs. I have ever since it came out in 1996. And this podcast was done by two guys out in Oregon, and I started listening to it back in 2020, and I was just doing my part-time job listening to it every week, or every other week, I guess is when they were doing it. And oh yeah, I just started, getting involved in that community and joining everybody there and making friends, and um it was just a big huge part of my life for a long time. And uh come to find out, I kind of developed a crush on one of the hosts, and I told him that like a year and a half after listening to his podcast, and he was like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, now so I'm in Oregon, so it ended up working out. And yeah, so since I've moved to Oregon, that was in the beginning of 2022. Um, Lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff has happened. Um, my boyfriend's dog had to get put down of like 16 years, and then he thought his mom was gonna like had issues, his family had issues, he had issues, like health issues. I had mental health issues. That first year was kind of hard because at that point in time I had been single for like 12 years. So I thought I got my shit all figured out. I have sorted it out. I have had so much time to sort it out that I am fine. I have no emotional baggage, and that was a fucking lie. That was not true. Um, so yeah, I needed to sort myself out through that. I didn't realize I had trust issues, but I totally did. Thanks all my ex boyfriends who were fucking shitty. Nothing new there. Most people have that experience, but it was really, really acute that first year. And I had been doing this part-time job. I tried to make artwork like the first 3 months I was here, and wow, weird, it didn't. Um, it started off good. It was really weird. It started off really, really good the first month, and then I made half of what I made the first month, and then by the third month, I made half of that again. So by the end of it, I was making like 150 to $100, and yeah, it wasn't sustainable. And so I got this part-time job doing um piecemeal work for a company, and they called it surprise balls. And it's just this like tissue paper that you wrapped around and put little, hid little toys in there, and at the end of the project it looks like a sphere. It just is like this big circle, and then you tear it apart and rip into it. It's like a party favor thing, and there's a bunch of toys inside. Well, I did that for a year and a half. And in the meanwhile, like, we got our first dog, Murphy, and after the other dog had passed away, and he's a pit bull terrier from Texas. That comes in later. That comes up later. Um, and I end up having to quit this surprise ball job because ball job um, because it starts tearing up my left. Like, I can't even move. I can't even lift my shoulder up to my like ear. Like, I can't lift my arm up to my ear because it hurts so bad and I can't move it, which is weird because like that was the hand I was using to like stabilize the sphere as I was holding it, and the other hand was the one doing all the wrapping. So I thought for sure it would be the right arm that would get screwed up from that, but no, left arm. So it's to the point where I can't even make money doing this anymore because it is so painful that I can't even work anymore. And I was, having to do two or between 2 and 400 of these a week, these little surprise balls, in order to make like $100. So it was not sustainable, and I ended up getting a different other part-time job. It took me like 6 months to find a new job. It's not easy when you don't have like anything but a high school diploma. It is not easy to get work. And I guess maybe it's not even easy if you have other diplomas, but um, it's especially not easy if you don't have, really specialized skills, or you're not like specially trained in a very specific field other than art. Um, I'm really good at drawing horses, but when it comes to doing things, especially in this area, medical stuff is big here. So I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor. So, Um, yeah, it was really difficult. So I ended up getting a different other job, part-time job, and the hours are super flexible, and I'm able to basically work whenever I want, which is pretty cool. Um, and I basically just drive from one airport to the other, and it's not very difficult. I really like driving, so that part's fine for me. And yeah, so that is basically pretty much catching up to, other than a lot of other specific little stuff, um, catching up to 2024. At the end of 2023, we ended up getting Pipsqueak, who is a little corgi. I am actually not one of those people who always wanted a corgi my whole life. I didn't dislike corgis. I think they're fine. I personally, like, if I could have a dog that's like my ultimate, I've always wanted this type of dog. It's a miniature bull terrier. Um, which is funny because if you look at my comic, it's the furthest thing from the dog that's in my comic. But yeah, we ended up kind of like accidentally getting this corgi because a friend of my boyfriend's two dogs ended up accidentally having puppies, and so she's actually a little corgi with a tail. So I really like that about her. She's super cute and wiggly, and she has a bark that's documented louder than 90 decibels, which is pretty loud. Um, and yeah, so that's like our little family unit right now. And I am basically, yeah, caught up with everything. My dog ended up having, my pit bull ended up having heartworms, which was really upsetting because we were diligent about giving him his heartworm meds the whole first year we had him. And because he did come from Texas, they have a huge heartworm problem down there. I knew nothing about heartworms. I just thought, oh, you give them the meds, they don't get heartworms. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked for all of the dogs I've ever had, and I've had lots of dogs over my life. So, um, it's not quite how it works. Basically, they can't really test for heartworms. Fun fact, if you have a dog, you're going to get your lesson on heartworms right now. Um, if you have a dog and it's under a year old, there's no real reliable test for heartworms, and we got him at 6 months. So, um, we ended up he got tested for heartworms, but it was negative. So I just thought, okay, he doesn't have heartworms, and that's all I know about that. So it came as a surprise when we went to go get his yearly checkup, and he pops positive for heartworms, and I'm like, how? And then, I get grilled about, did you give him the medicine? Did you give him Yes, I gave him the medicine. I was very diligent about that, making sure he was getting his heartworm meds every month. And we had like proof in the sense of like receipts and stuff of getting him his meds. But, so what happens is that heartworms take 6 months to develop fully in order to actually show positive on a test. So if they're anywhere under 6 months old or a year old, unless they get heartworms like from the time they're born, when they test at 6 months, they're going to show as negative. So that's why they generally wait until a year old to even do the test, because it's kind of a waste to before that. But they're going through an adoption facility and they just wanted to get all the tests done, I guess. So that's why they did the test. But yeah, so he ended up having heartworms due to the fact that he was from Texas in a high heartworm area. And what ended up happening with him is that when you do have a dog with heartworms, sure, you can just ignore it. And then eventually, sometimes it takes between 3 and 7+ years. But the heartworms just get so many that, once about 40 heartworms are in the heart, um, unfortunately, basically your dog's heart explodes. And then they just fall over dead one day. So of course we were absolutely not going to let that happen. And we, got him treated, and the treatment involves being injected with, basically arsenic in a small dose. And he had to be on really, really strict kennel rest. He couldn't have any physical exercise. And then the meds we had to give him, during this process of getting rid of this, these heartworms, increased his appetite. So he actually ended up gaining some weight. He gained about 10 pounds during all this because it's a period of 3 months where they're not really, really strict kennel rest. And then they have to have these multiple shots, once a month for 3 months. And then he had to have another month of kennel rest after all of it. And now he's good. He's good. Thank goodness. But yeah, it was kind of scary there for a little bit because he actually had a better time of it than some dogs. He has a really, really high pain tolerance for some reason. I know that's the pit bull stereotype, but he really does. He doesn't squawk about anything, just about. And even when they were given the shot, they said that he was the first shot was really painful for him. So that made me sad because I know how painful that had to be, and for him to say something about it. But, yeah, he's okay now. He doesn't have heartworms anymore. And he shouldn't have heartworms for the rest of his life as long as he stays on his medicine. Which, obviously we're doing that. So, He should be good. Pipsqueak was born here in Oregon, so Oregon doesn't really have a heartworm problem. Um, and she was born like late summer, so it's also less likely that the mosquitoes that transmit heartworms were as out and about. Plus, she was like a baby that was inside all the time at late summer. So she's okay, probably. We'll know for sure when she's a year old. Um, but yeah, so that's the pet and family situation. I've already been blabbering for like 20 minutes now. I just wanted to start this because like I said, I've been wanting to do this forever. I really love podcasts like this. Like, I really enjoy hearing about the life of someone else. I like hearing it in their voice. I like listening, every couple weeks or whatever when Fran does hers. I love hearing about what's going on and what's going on with her family and everything she feels like sharing um, with her patrons and the community that she kind of has and the support and everything. I just think it's really cool. And I don't know if I'll get the same thing. Maybe this is just gonna be like a self therapy. I'm in actual therapy too, but like maybe this will just be like a little self therapy thing for my own well being without I don't know if anyone will ever listen to this, but you know what? I'm like I said, it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I think I personally like listening to stuff like this. I'm been considering for a long time now about getting my YouTube channel up and going again. And the problem I've struggled with YouTube is that none of my social medias are big. Like, I think my biggest social media is TikTok, and with 4,000 people, which sounds like a lot, and it is. I mean, if there's 4,000 people in a room, that'd be overwhelming. Um, but, on TikTok, it's, small potatoes, um, numbers wise. You really, like, much like every other social media platform, you have to have a certain number of followers before you can do certain things, and it's still too small of a number to like do certain things. I only have like 1,000 people on Instagram, and I've had Instagram since it started, so it's like I've had a long time to grow up my community. What I was talking about before with YouTube, I have like 100 subscribers there, and I've had YouTube since 2009 or so. Um, not like I haven't been trying to do YouTube since 2009. Um, I mean, I have on and off, but due to the untreated ADHD, I didn't. I would try it. I'd get zero response, zero, acceptance, no comments, really, no views, and then I would just get so discouraged. And I would try it for a couple of months or something, and I'd be like, this isn't working, and then I would just give up. And then I'd be like, let me try again. I've heard, I'll watch all these videos about how to do good on YouTube, and I'll try again and the same thing will happen. And I noticed a pattern with the videos I was trying to make was that I would constantly make them for other artists. And I've known for a long time now that while I really like content for artists by other artists for myself, I don't actually want to make that kind of content. Um, because that really kind of ends up putting you in a teacher role. And I don't really buy into all the like, oh, teachers, if you can't do, teach, whatever. I don't care about that stuff. But um, what I do care about is that I'm here on this planet to make this comic of mine. And doing teacherly stuff and making tutorials and showing my process in a very like clinical, this is how you draw this line this way. That's not why I'm making my stories. It's interesting, and if you get something out of the stuff I share and show online, cool. I'm not opposed to like teaching a little bit, but I also just find that like if you're talking to other artists, while artists do, end up getting into the nitty gritty marketing, business side of things, which is also like a side hobby of mine. While artists sometimes do buy from other artists. Also, more commonly, most artists are broke as hell. I know from personal experience. Um, so, needless to say, I feel like I could have a, more diverse, more larger community and group of people if they're not strictly artists. But then it's like, well, then who are those people? And like I said before, I've admired Fran's career for a very long time now. And one of the things I thought was the coolest thing about her and her career is that people were really attached to her. They like her. Um, it's not to say that they didn't care about her art. They do, but like the art, she could change styles, she could change what she was doing, she could sell shirts, she could move to doing comics, she could do random one-offs comics or a whole graphic novel, and people would follow her no matter what because they just like her. She's a cool person. And it's like, dang, I want to be a cool person. I've always wanted to be a cool person. Um, so that's like the thing that like I want to emulate in my career and maybe one day get there. I don't know. I'm almost 40 and that's like been a whole other mind fuck that I've been dealing with lately. But, um, yeah, it's like I'd like to get there one day. And I think that is the way I'd like to get there. I've seen a few different kind of paths for artists, and you of course got like, the teacher path that I mentioned, and then you kind of have like, I don't know, the influencer kind of path, but I don't really feel like I've got the cred enough to be an influencer. I mean, as I discussed with my numbers, like I don't got influencer numbers, so that isn't happening. So kind of the only thing I can really do is just be like, let's talk about my life. This is what I'm going through. Maybe I can, help you based on what I'm going through. I don't know. I've always tried to do that for people, kind of be like an emotional support system to my own detriment usually, but I still like doing that, and that's kind of what I'm sort of aiming towards now. And this little podcast thing I'm trying now is going to be my foray into that because hopefully I get some feedback on this. Hopefully people listen, at least like two or three people, and then that can kind of be like a jumping point for the YouTube stuff. Maybe I can kind of do a similar sort of thing, like an update sort of thing. Not exactly vlog style, but something. And then kind of basically just, yeah, just kind of go from there and do something similar. Fran said I'm way behind on her podcast, so I'm catching up now, but on the one that I just listened to or recently, she mentioned, oh yeah, like I say whatever I want here on the Patreon cast, but on the YouTube videos, what really goes well is like if I wait some time for something to develop, like a situation to fully develop and kind of be finished, and then I kind of tell the story then and sort of say, the end goal, the thing I learned about from it or something. And I've noticed that a lot on YouTube that like if you're in the middle of something, if you're going through something, um, sometimes people care, but also sometimes they don't. um, they really like a clean conclusion to everything, um, or a life lesson learned, or something they can take away from it. Um, in the past, I've kind of resented that, but I've kind of come to my own peace with it now, and just kind of realize that's the name of the game. That's if you want to do YouTube, that's what you got to keep in mind. Um, I also want to get more into my story, which I haven't really talked about the comic much at all yet, but I am done. It's called, okay, first off, it's called The Golden Troop, as if you listening to this don't know. Um, and I'll just do my little blurb. It's a story of a past life of mine taking place 2,500 years ago in the Achaemenid Empire, and it follows the trail of me and my animal companions as we go on crazy misadventures together. And the whole thing with that is that I really want to finish uh, the total project is going to be 3 volumes. I finished volume one late last year, and I'm kind of gearing up to do the Kickstarter for it. I wanted to do it in January, and then I wanted to do it in April, and then now I'm kind of looking at June. Um, and yeah, so the Kickstarter will be for volume one, and I'm hoping it'll be successful. I'm trying to promote on social media this month and then next month heavier and kind of start talking about, the Kickstarter and wanting to develop it. I'm also in the middle of working on a comic commission for a totally different project. And that will basically eat up my whole entire May, my whole entire month of May. Um, so that is going to be a consideration too with trying to get this Kickstarter going. I may not be able to get it really finished until July because you really want to put time and effort into it. And then the Kickstarter is like between 2 weeks and a month long generally. So yeah, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of build up to it. You gotta like really get out there and promote it way more than you really ever promoted anything ever before if you hope for it to do okay. And for this initial Kickstarter for Volume One, what I want to do is basically just have a hardcover backed book, and you know, typical Kickstarter stuff, having things added to it if we make stretch goals and whatnot. But basically, the original book will be the hardback book, and then patrons and Kickstarter backers can get that. And then once the Kickstarter is done, and I might have a couple for conventions or whatnot um, left over from the Kickstarter, I want to then release it on like print on demand. So like Amazon Create, well, they used to call it Create Space. I don't know whatever the book thing is on Amazon now. Either that or some other site. Probably leaning towards the Amazon one. I've done that before. And then that I can just have that on my site and just like people can just go there. They can go to a thing they've heard of before. They've heard of Amazon before, and then they can just purchase the graphic novel soft cover version there. It won't be as fancy as the Kickstarter version, but that's kind of the whole point of the Kickstarter is to get the fancy version. So yeah, that's kind of my plan in the next couple months here is to get that go up and going. And then of course, kind of concurrent with that is starting gearing up, volume two and getting going on that. Um, like I said, it's 3 volumes I have planned. I have all of this just playing around in my head. All of this, stuff and everything I got going on with the comic. It's just all up in my head. The plan is to kind of get that a little bit more firmly written down on paper. I basically flew by the seat of my pants on the first volume, and also that took me like 5 years to get the first volume done. So the hope is that I want it to take some time because I release it for free online. And I think, with webcomics, it's kind of nice to have a sort of long going webcomic with, reasonably consistent updates, which was not the case for my first one. But yeah, in order to have all that kind of flow a little bit better and be able to develop more of an audience for it, um, it's definitely better if it is more planned, not less. So the plan is to, get script going, get going on, uh, just plans, concepts, um, and kind of, go that route. Um, Otherwise, I think the only other biggest thing that's sort of going on at the moment with me is that, um, I'm planning on going vegan. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be one of those obnoxious vegans now, but not for the reason that most people go vegan. Most people, I've heard go vegan, do it for the animals, and it is going to sound callous, but I don't really care if animals get killed for food. That sounds so mean. I care, you know. I'm not some jerk who's just like, oh yeah, kill him and make it extra hurt. No, I I have a relationship with animals. I have two dogs. I've had cats in the past. I personally believe that if you have an obligate carnivore, which is not what dogs are, but they do eat meat, um, especially cats though, uh, it is your duty to feed them the way that they need to be fed. And if that means needing to feed them animals, then that's what you need to do. If you don't like that, then you need to get a rabbit or a horse or a goat or something that doesn't eat meat, in my opinion. So I'm actually okay with the like idea of like hunting or killing meat for food. That's that part of it doesn't bug me. The interesting thing for me and why I'm thinking about making this change is I've watched a series of different documentaries, and in each one of them, they weren't all like produced by the same people. They're like all separate documentaries. They all came to the same conclusion, and one of the documentaries I saw that had the best kind of argument, succinct argument, it covered every single thing I've ever heard against being a vegan. It covered all of it. In soy products, you can't get enough protein. Um, you know, just all of it, right? Like everything you've ever heard about. Oh, this is why you shouldn't be vegan, or why it doesn't work, or blah 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 blah. Um, all of it false, of course. And you know, the thing that pissed me off is that we've been lied to as a society for a long time because in order to sell you something, and that's what pisses me off. And is part of the reason why I'm like moving towards this. But probably the biggest reason of all, as I've just mentioned, I support the dietary needs of whatever animal you're taking care of. And in the case of humans, as it turns out, we're herbivores. I never knew this. Um, I was always cool with eating meat because for really what it boiled down to was two reasons. I was raised that way and I like the taste of it. That's what it boiled down to for me. And upon learning that like humans are actually herbivores and trying to eat meat constantly expressly puts your body under an immense amount of inflammation constantly pissed me off so much because I'm like, I hate the idea of like, if somebody told me that they were feeding a lion broccoli, it would make me so mad. Or if they were saying I fed my horse nothing but chicken nuggets, I'd be like, why are you doing that? That's not what they eat, right? Like, the idea of feeding something the wrong food and for the stupidest reasons. Money is the dumbest reason to do something so wrong that you're that's not good for you. Um, so yeah, it that is like the core thing that's like stimulating me to make this change personally because it's like they've shown and they went in the one documentary I watched. It's called The Game Changers on Netflix if you feel like checking it out, and they showed these Olympic level athletes, which I am not. I just want to lose a few pounds. Um, and they all performed better on the vegan diet. And unfortunately, you kind of have to go vegan. I was like, oh, I can do vegetarian. No, but it's like any animal proteins. It just it causes inflammation in your system. So butter, dairy, all that stuff I like, cookies, ugh, regular cookies, I should say. Um, yeah, it's going to be a big change for me. I watched another documentary tonight, totally separate. And they were saying a lot of the, you know, times when people try to go healthy and then they just make a super quick shift, it doesn't work. It doesn't go long term. Because people, you know, they feel uncomfortable because they get bloating and gas and everything. And it's like, it's because they did it too fast. So it's something you gotta kind of like, you know, ease into anyway. So that's what I'm in the process of doing. Um, but yeah, so that's probably like the biggest like personal change for me, like right this second. At the moment, I'm still like working on all the stuff in the fridge that is animal based, which is a lot of stuff. Because all of our convenient food, right, all the stuff that you can just grab out of a pack and eat real fast, all of it is pretty much animal byproducts. And that's by design, and that's another thing that pisses me off. But anyway, yeah, I think that's quite a bit for my first little podcast. If you've listened this far, thank you. Um, Sincerely, I wish I could say more thank you to my patrons, because basically the people who've been my patron have been my patron since I started Patreon, which is insane because I don't even know what year that was. It's probably been close to 10 years at this point. Um, and they just, they've just stayed. I haven't grown a lot on my Patreon, but the people that are there have stayed there, and that is like so incredibly just meaningful to me that people would do that. And it's not lost on me that, um, they've supported me when I wasn't outputting a ton, um, and they still supported me. And I really appreciate that so much. So I'm hoping this can be like a little interesting little thing. I'm gonna figure out how to put it on like an actual RSS feed so you can actually listen to it in your like podcast thing. So you don't have to like go to Patreon to do it. I think that's part of the problem is like Patreon itself isn't a really great site for consuming content, which is ironic because that's basically all it's there for. Um, so, I want to make it as easy as possible, but also like password protected or whatever. Cause this is like for y'all. Like you guys are the super special people. The YouTube people will get like the Cliff Notes version of this, like, in a couple months when I figure out whether this vegan thing works out for, oh yeah, that's the other reason why I was gonna go vegan is cause like also my body and health has been like really like tanking lately. And I'm just hoping that this kind of helps, and I don't want to say fixes it completely because there's still people who are like vegan and have illness or whatnot, but I'm hoping. But yeah, so that's just an example. Anyway, before I get to the 45-minute mark, I'll go ahead and call it and listen over this like probably 3 or 4 times to obnoxious degree, and then maybe put it out tomorrow out onto into the wild blue yonder of Patreon. Um, and yeah, so again, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you've done, and I hope there can be, more of you guys who want to listen to this in the future. Um, I'm happy doing this. So if you guys like it, and maybe if you don't, I'll still keep doing it at least for a little bit because I love just blabbing. And it is actually honestly been therapeutic for me to go over all this tonight. So yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, and I will catch y'all later. Bye.